Hey there, YouTube. It is a brand new week. Good to be alive, isn't it? Get up in the morning and just breathe in a little bit of gratitude before you get your day started. But anyhow, today I thought we'd start the week out talking about are you struggling on a raw vegan diet? Is it too expensive? Everybody's always struggling, and people, that's one of their top things. They're always saying, but it's so expensive to do a raw vegan diet. It's so expensive to eat plant-based. Well, it's not really. It's just kind of how the way you look at things. So I'm going to try to give you a little insight on that today. If you're struggling on a raw vegan diet, I'm going to say, I won't jump ahead of myself. If you're struggling on the raw vegan diet, I'll give you the advice that I give pretty much about everything. See where you can simplify. I think people get into trouble because they get a little too much. There's a fine line. You want to try new things. You want to experiment. There is a learning curve. But then there's another side where people are just kind of like, let's just throw the kitchen sink at it. Let's eat this. Let's eat that. And sometimes you have to step back just a little bit and figure out what's actually working and what's not. In other words, what are the trouble spots? And as I always say, if you're not doing it and you're struggling, you got to be keeping a food journal. I mean, that's the only way that you know exactly what's going on. I think a lot of times, some people struggle and they hear that advice to get a food journal, and subconsciously, maybe they're not doing it on purpose, but subconsciously at least, I think they don't want that food journal, because if they do write down everything they eat, write down how much of it, what times, just all of it down, then there won't be anything to fall back on. Then if you take out your journal and show to one of your coaches or somebody else that's trying to help you on this, then there's nowhere left to hide. It's just like, this is what it is, and you might hear some truths that you don't want to hear, like, well, you can't do this, or if you do this all the time, this isn't going to work, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm not getting into any real particulars with that, but one of the main broad areas is if you're struggling, are you eating enough? You're never going to last on this lifestyle more. I mean, you can white knuckle it. You can do it for a few months. But if you're hungry all the time, if you're not filling yourself up, this is not going to last. It's not going to last. You're not going to be able to just do a restriction diet, or you're not going to be able to do something, a way of eating where you're constantly hungry, because if you're constantly hungry, your stomach's going to always be bothering you for more food. Plus, you're just not going to have the energy to do what you need to get done. Also, in that journal, if you have a food journal, or if you're going to go out and buy a food journal, I have food journals for sale. I've got them down in the description, but as I always like to make sure and say, you don't need to buy a fancy food journal. You can go out this afternoon to Walmart and get yourself a simple little notebook. And I would say, in addition to keeping a journal, you might want, I know affirmations and that kind of stuff, prompts and things like that work with some people. So you might actually go into your food journal, and especially if you're getting started on this lifestyle, you've got your days planned out. Okay, here's day one, here's day two. Not planned out, you're not writing until you eat, but you might actually go in there and write some little notes down, just kind of to remind you, encourage you, like, greens, or what is the primary concern today, like, in other words, like what I need to eat first. This is like the needs, and then if there's any room left after that, then we can eat something, just for taste or whatever. But are you getting your fruit in? Fruit for breakfast, greens, get those greens in every day. I think a lot of times if you just said, okay, here's what's non-negotiable. I'm going to eat these certain things tomorrow, regardless. I might screw up, I might eat some crap on top of this, but I'm going to eat this. And if you plan it out a little bit like that, like, okay, for breakfast, I'm going to have this fruit, bananas, mangoes, whatever. I'm going to have a fruit smoothie. I'm going to have some ice cream, whatever. Say, okay, I'm going to have a big fruit breakfast. That's non-negotiable. I'm going to have a big salad tomorrow, and I'm talking about a big, big, big salad. All my salads have at least a full head of lettuce in there. and a bunch of other good stuff in there. My chopped purple cabbage, broccoli. So I'm just going to have, so you're going to have a big fruit meal. You're going to have a big salad with a lot of diversity in there. You're going to have at least 5, 6 different colors, a lot of stuff going on in there. And then after that, maybe you want to put a green smoothie. You want something else on there. That's just kind of, I don't have all those things on that list every day, but that's kind of a base for me. Big fruit meal, salad, green smoothie. Because in those green smoothies, I can get a lot of other nutrition in, like my hemp seeds and lentil sprouts. I can get, and also too, if I'm having green smoothies and big salads, I get more sprouts in during my days because I'll put sprouts on my salad and I'll put a serving of sprouts in my green smoothie. Maybe my particular green smoothie is not your thing, or maybe it's going to look a little bit different for you. But however it looks, you need to have that base of the things that make up the core of your diet. This is my stuff. I'm going to have this. This is going to get included tomorrow before anything else. And that's non-negotiable. After I eat all these things, okay, maybe I might eat something on top of that. But yeah. And as far as just like the keeping of the journal, that's where you can sit down, whether you need to review your journal every day or whether you just sit down. I think it works for most people to give it like a week. You start a journal, you sit down, you do it every day, and then at the end of the week you sit down. And this is all based on you. What are you trying to do with this lifestyle? Why did you come into this lifestyle? Are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to clear up your skin? Digestion. That's going to be the number one key to how your food, like, is this working? Is your digestion good? Is your digestion good? Other than the period that it might take for you to get the adjustment period in the beginning on this lifestyle, if something's causing you not to have good digestion, unless you already came into it. Now, some people have digestive issues. They come into it and it's not going to clear up right away. And then a lot of times, sometimes it'll take a while for people to get used and adjust to all the fiber that they're taking in. But eat those things first. Have your priority stuff set up. Write it all down. And then, like I say, at the end of the week, you go back in there and you say, well, maybe I shouldn't do this. Or you don't even realize, like, oh, wow, I'm having too much fat during the day. I know I had fat with this, I had fat with this, I had fat with this. So maybe we cut this down. Maybe it's as simple as you ate a full avocado in one of those meals. You eat that, you say, well, maybe that should have been a half, or maybe this. And you can tweak it like that. And when people say the diet is too expensive, I would say very similar advice. Keep it simple. The simple version of this lifestyle is always going to be the best. I'll even notice sometimes when I'm doing my recipes, and I'll come up with a new recipe, or I'll come up with a new dish or something, or I have some of my favorites that I like, and I start doing the math, because I want to try to. I'm getting to a point where at some point I might be living in a travel trailer or tiny home or on the road, and I really need to start paying attention, really paying attention. I'm not willy-nilly with how I spend money on food, but a lot of times I catch myself going like, okay, I added that to the salad and that adds like $2, $3 to that one salad. Was it necessary? Did it give me a lot of extra nutrition? Was it really super tasty? Did it make the dish? And you just kind of make these decisions based on, like I say, your pocketbook and how much you want to make your meals cost. But there's a lot of things I can do, like when I'm making things, and it just comes right back to it. If you stick to the basics, buying fruit, even, like a lot of areas that people live in, I don't have the ugly table or the reduced fruit table all that much. Every once in a while I'll get bananas, but in a lot of places, a lot of cities and different areas where you live, you'll have farmers markets, or usually just grocery stores that'll have fruit that's gotten a little riper than the average person likes, and you can pick up a deal on it like that. You just do what you can though. Frozen fruit. I don't find that frozen fruit that comes frozen at the grocery store optimal, but I'm sitting here in South Alabama, and it works very well, both nutrition wise and cost wise, for smoothies and ice creams and various stuff. So yeah, just like if you stick to the simple. As far as the too expensive, I don't know how you're living when you're eating a standard American diet or when you're eating anything else. I know that when I used to eat, like I ate meat, I ate dairy, I ate all that kind of stuff, that it was still, I mean, I'm still spending a lot of money. So it's basically about just making choices, regardless of how you're eating. Is this necessary? How much am I willing to spend to eat? And you know, like I say, most of the time, if you think this lifestyle is too expensive, it's just because you're trying. And also too, and let me finish with this about the expensive part and about the simple part. You don't necessarily, your influences and creators are not necessarily your best example for day to day. Like I said, like there's a lot of big influencers and creators that I'm like, wow, that's a great recipe. I'll take a recipe from them. But if you watch them, if you watch their Instagram feed or if you watch them on YouTube often, you're like, man, this person's rolling in the bucks, because everything they make, you start adding up like, I'm like a little calculator. If I see one of them doing these different dishes, I'm like, okay, that cost this. I'm like, good Lord, that's a $20 meal right there. So your mileage may vary. When you're on these social media apps and YouTube and watching people make these fabulous looking dishes, also realize they got the money to play with that, and maybe you or I don't. But anyhow, everybody can do this lifestyle. Is just simple, whole food, plant-based. And I would say if you're really struggling when it comes to cost, and if you're living in a place where fruit and that stuff isn't that abundant, and you're going to eat some cooked food, stick to the simple stuff there too. The basics, sweet potatoes. I'm looking over at my table right there. About the only things that I eat cooked, you know, I always put, like, a lot of times I'll put like what I eat on a mostly raw food diet if I'm eating some cooked that day. 90% of the time, the cooked food that I eat is a sweet potato on my salad or some legumes. So do those things. Think about the staples. You can buy sweet potatoes cheap. You can buy big bags of beans cheap, whatever. But stick to the basics. Stick to the staples. Keep it simple. And your diet, you'll feel good for it, and you won't spend a ton of money on it. So anyhow, just the 2 cents from a crazy old senile dude. Anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed this message today. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you tomorrow or Wednesday. Peace.